So the first thing you need to do is to get on to the homework assignment, and I'll show you guys how to get to the homework assignment and how to turn in homework assignments. So for the most part, it's something that you can just do. Whatever I do here, you can just do the same thing. All right. The font size. And also, by the way, if you use Moodle, all your homework assignments that will be due within 2 weeks will show up on here, even before you get into the class. I'm just gonna bump up the font size. And it's under the first topic, and this homework I'm not gonna really explain it much because we have just done something like that. So I will start with this one instead. All right, so it's kind of long because it has a lot of description. The first thing is to click quote unquote here, which is the hyperlink, but I also kind of spell out the actual URL. So if you click here, I would just do a right click and a new tab, so I don't lose track of the original page. And it's on Google Drive. It's one pretty big file. Okay, so if you don't have a USB drive that has like 3 gigs left on the device itself, you don't have to do it today. Okay, instead focus on what I'm doing, why it is done the way that I do it, and so that you have the rest is being recorded right now, so that's not going to be a big issue. Okay, so I'll just go ahead and download this. Click the download icon, and it will start the download. The file size of the zip file is about 0.7 gigabytes. It's kind of big because it is one entire computer, okay, as a virtual machine. So if you think about it that way, it's not too bad. Not the smallest, but not too bad either. So this will take a little bit of time, and I'm going to switch back to the assignment itself so I can do some descriptions. Once you download the file, it is a regular zip file. So what you can do with it is really to just go ahead and unzip it into a folder. And that folder doesn't have to be on the hard drive of a computer. It can be on a USB thumb drive or something else. You know what? I just made a mistake. Let me cancel the download, because if I do it this way, I'll be explaining how to do it in Linux. In other words, I'll be showing you how to run a virtual machine that runs Linux inside Linux, which is not necessary, right? If you want to do it that way, I'm not going to stop you, but it won't be necessary. So what I want to do is to show you how to do it in Windows, okay? If you are already running Linux, especially the 32-bit version of Linux, you can just use that, okay? If the majority of you will be using Windows, so I'm going to show you how to do it in Windows. And to do that,
do we necessarily need a 32?
Sorry?
Do we need a 32-bit distribution, or can we run a 64?
The difference is if you have a 64-bit distribution, you have to do extra stuff to the command line commands in order to assemble in 32-bit mode. Because I'll be using 32-bit instructions, and the 64-bit instructions are similar but not exactly the same. So you still have to kind of do something about it to make it work with this class. The easiest solution is just to run the 32-bit virtual machine and be done with it. Okay, so now I have to find out where my virtual machine is. So just give me a moment to find it.
Let's say VM.
No, it's not a base VM. It's a Win7. It's this one here. Let's see. Do I have the virtual machine? Yep. Looks that way. We'll give it a try. Where's the folder? It's under Fullmin. Okay. This part you don't have to do, so don't worry about this part. So until I say pay attention, this is all the stuff that I have to do in order to run Windows in Linux. And then I'll be running Linux inside that. KVM is not found. Okay, fine. Linux. That's not Windows. It booted to Linux, right? Yeah, that's not the right one. This may not be this drive. Let me try another one. Let's try back. No. I think it's this one. Yay! So what I'm doing here is I'm running Windows 7 as a virtual machine inside Linux, so I can show you how to run Linux as a virtual machine inside Windows. And don't ask me to repeat that sentence because I cannot. I can draw a picture though, since it's booting up. So this is what we want to do. Okay, this is what I want to do in this class is to run a small Linux box as a virtual machine inside Windows 7, which is also running as a virtual machine inside Linux. It's a holodeck in the holodeck.
So if we need to connect our personal computer to this environment, we need a file set up.
Well, I'm going to show you exactly what you need to do in Windows. So just kind of follow what I do inside the Windows environment. Okay. So what we'll do is, do I want to do it now or later?
Do you want to start?
Let's do it later.
Maybe after class.
I don't want my Windows box to get hacked. Oh, installing updates again. I haven't used it for a while, that's why.
We use the code blocks.
I don't think it's going to be very helpful. You guys can use whatever you want. I just care about the grading part of your homework assignment.
Is it going to be the same as 360 where you just run it and see if it works? Or
Sorry?
is it going to be the same as 360 where you just run our assignment and see if it works? Or
Yep, same thing. All right, so this is inside the virtual machine. I'm going to Moodle inside the virtual machine, so I'm going to have to redo all the steps that I did a little bit earlier. And I'm not sure whether stuff inside the virtual machine is going to be recorded correctly. So I'll have to check that too before I go any further. We can check that. So we can do VLC 2015 0120. So I'm running a video player to check whether the recording is done correctly or not. And I need the controls so I can kind of skip certain portions of it. Yep, that worked. I'm showing a video of what I just recorded a little bit earlier of how I run a virtual machine inside the Linux box, just to explain what I'm doing here.
And you're recording this?
And I'm recording it, yes. All right, so that worked, that's good. All right. So inside the virtual machine, this is your environment. Okay, you're running Windows. You know, it can be Windows 8. I think it works in Windows 8 too. But this is Windows 7. You log into the class. You go to the first topic, which is data and number representation, and then you go to the homework, which is lab activity, setting up a Linux environment for homework assignment. You click that, and there's a hyperlink here to download the virtual machine as a zip file, as a single zip file. So we'll go ahead and click on this link here. It will bring you to, oh, I forgot to right click it. That's okay, I can always get back here later. Okay, so it brings you to Google Drive. You just click on the download button and say download anyway, because it's a huge file and Google is basically saying I'm not gonna virus check it. And we'll go ahead and just save the file. And when you save the file, you can save it, just anywhere. Okay, just make sure you have enough space to do it. And now we can get back to the assignment itself. Want to keep an eye on the download. It's going to take a little bit of time, but it's really fast, even inside the virtual machine. So if I just kind of magnify your homework assignment. All right, so this part is really just talking about unzipping it, and you can unzip it into a thumb drive or an external hard drive. The idea is to make this as portable as possible, okay? Because doing it this way means you don't have to install anything. You don't have to install VMware, you don't have to install VirtualBox. Literally, you're just unzipping a file and then double click on the batch file and the virtual machine starts up. Okay, so it's not the fastest, but it does give you, the flexibility. Plug in the drive to any computer, any lab, and you'll be able to run the virtual machine. Okay, does everybody understand why I'm doing it this way instead of using VMware or VirtualBox? Yeah, both of those products require installation. Okay, any questions? Questions? All right. So once you unzip, it will give you two batch files. The first batch file is start32.bat, and the second batch file is start64.bat. So depending on the version of Windows that you have to pick one or the other. If you have a 32-bit installation of Windows, then you use Start32. If you have a 64-bit version of Windows, then you use Start64. Are there any questions about that part? Okay, questions? And I think the download is all done, so we'll go ahead and take a look at the file. It's just a regular zip file. Windows can deal with it. So at this point, what you want to do is to install this or unzip it into a folder. I have an quote-unquote external drive here just for the purpose of demonstration. So what I'll do is I'm going to open this in a new window, and it doesn't have, okay, I can remove all of this stuff here. This is from last semester, so it's not confusing. So right here, this is the zip file itself, and this is my external drive, quote-unquote external drive E drive. And what I'm going to do is to extract all files, but I'm not going to extract it onto the hard drive. I'm going to extract it onto my E drive, which is my external hard drive. Okay. Are there any questions about what I have done so far? Just extract everything in the zip file onto whatever you want to extract it to. Just make sure you get enough space. 2.5 gigabytes or 3 gigabytes would be good on the device that you're unzipping into. So I can just extract everything. So it extracts to 1.95 gigabytes, but you kind of have to leave some space because one of the files can grow as you use up more space. I don't think in this class we'll be using up a lot of space, but just leave some space behind would be good. It's a little bit slow because we are running this inside the virtual machine, but things will get even slower when I run another virtual machine inside this virtual machine. So it is virtual machine. It's getting there. So getting back to the homework assignment description, because this might take a little bit of time, I'm going to put it here so that I can see it. And getting back to the homework assignment. So the first part is just a little bit about how to use QEMU, because people who use it the first time usually would panic when they cannot control the mouse anymore. The mouse pointer would be grabbed by this particular program. So let's check whether that's done or not. 20 seconds remaining. Okay, almost there. Before we move on, I have to check the installation of Windows 7 and make sure that this is a 32-bit installation. The way you do it, there are several ways to do it. I just go to Control Panel and then go to System and Security, I think. And inside here, we can look at amount of RAM and processor speed. I think it will report the version of Windows 2. Yep. So right here, it reports back this is a 32-bit operating system. So I'll be using start32.bat as a batch file. So you can do the same thing to find out which version of Windows you have and use the correct batch file to start accordingly. So I'm going to close this. The unzip is all done. So it gives me a single folder, which is called Linux. Go into this folder. It has two subfolders, QEMU32 and QEMU64. You don't need to know what's inside those folders, because those are just executables for the emulator itself. What you need to do is to pick, start32 or start64. And I just said, I need start32. Double click it. And the publisher cannot be verified. Are you sure you want to run this software? I say yes. And now we have QEMU running inside Windows 7, and Windows 7 is also another virtual machine inside Linux. Are we still doing okay so far? Is anyone getting confused or no? Okay. Sorry? Say again? You can add yourself using the self-enrollment method. Yep. It's a little bit slow because it is double or doubly emulated. Yep.
Here it asks for DVM login and password.
Yep.
Later on.
Yep.
What's the login and password?
User and user, I think. Try user and user first. So this will take a while. I'm gonna. Yep. Go ahead.
Isn't ASM the enrollment key?
ASM is the self-enrollment key. Yes, all lowercase.
It's not working.
It's not working. You have to log into Moodle first.
There it went.
Okay.
It's taking a while.
Yeah, this will take a little bit of time because it's doubly emulated, and you'll get there. Okay, so I'm going to describe what you have to do, as the homework assignment. All right. So the first thing you want to do is to download another file, and then when you download this file, it is going to be in Windows. So you need to somehow get this file over to the virtual machine. And the way you're going to do it is to run Winscp. Okay, that's a program that will allow you to transfer files from one computer to another computer. The virtual machine is basically just another computer. Okay.
Right, so if we have 64-bit, we should put 64.
If you have
The 64-bit Windows, I should run
start at 64. All right. So let's check. Oh, okay. Allow access. So your firewall may complain. You'll just say allow access. The reason why your firewall may complain is because the virtual machine wants to open up port 2200 so that we can use Winscp and also PuTTY, so you can quote unquote remote into the virtual machine. So that's probably why it was holding up. Oh, okay, we're all done. Okay, so the virtual machine has started up. When you see the login prompt, we are all basically set up already. The virtual machine is now running. So we'll go ahead and go through the notes here. The first thing is, if you click inside the emulator will grab your mouse pointer. In other words, no matter what you do with your mouse, you won't be able to see your mouse pointer anymore. When that happens, what you need to do is to follow the instruction on the title bar of QEMU. Usually it is just Control-Alt to release the mouse pointer, but I think the latest one in Windows has a slightly different combination. Yep. Control-Alt-G to release the grab on your mouse pointer. So don't panic if you cannot find or control your mouse pointer anymore. Just read the title text and follow the instruction to release your mouse pointer. All right. So now we are using QEMU. The second paragraph talks about try not to click the close button of the emulator. In other words, when you're running the emulator, there's a little close button here, just like any Windows program. If you click this button, it is the same thing as yanking the power cord of a desktop computer. When was the last time you shut down your computer by unplugging it from the wall? And we are talking about a desktop computer here. Okay, no one has done it, in the past month or year or so. Okay, well, the nice thing is it is not going to kill the virtual machine, okay, because the virtual machine uses a file system that is resistant to this type of thing. Okay, so you might lose one file at the most, but it's not going to host the file system as an entire thing. But it's still not a good thing to do. I'll show you how to shut it down. There's a command to do it. All right, the next thing is to move a file into the virtual machine. So if you click on this link here, I'm just going to do a right click and save link as, and it will give me a file which is called tar.gz, test.tar.gz. It will still, it will give you some incorrect information when, as far as the name is concerned. Don't get bothered by that. Just click save and know where it's saving it. And that's a tiny file. This one is a really tiny file. It's probably hundreds of bytes, if that. And don't bother to open this file using Windows, because Windows does not natively know how to deal with gzip files, especially when it's a gzip tar file. Make sure the virtual machine is running. How can I tell whether the virtual machine is running or not? Just looking at the screen right now. Has that little icon, right? So if you see this icon here, that means the emulator is working. And what we're going to do here is not going to work if the virtual machine is not running. Okay, because it is going to attempt to connect to the virtual machine. All right, so next thing is to go back to the folder Linux, and we are talking about the one that is already decompressed. So we'll go to this folder here. You will find two programs, two executables that you can double click and run. One is Winscp and the other one is PuTTY here. So what we want to do is to run Winscp so that we can transfer a file from Windows 7, which is called the host operating system, to Linux, which is called the guest operating system. And everything is working kind of slow because we are working with a virtual machine inside a virtual machine. All right, it will ask you, do you want to run this file? Just go ahead and click run. And the instruction that follows this is kind of important, but once you have done it once, you will remember how to do it. This is the login screen of Winscp. What you want to do is to make sure the file protocol is SFTP. The host name is localhost, okay? Because you are connecting to something that is running on the same machine as Windows itself. So you can just type localhost here, or if you prefer, you can also type 127.0.0.1 because that is the IP address of localhost. So that will work just as well. Port number is not 22, it is 2200 because port 22 is a low number port number. I cannot override it. But 2200 is a high number port and I can override it for the use of the virtual machine. Are we still doing okay so far? Okay. The username is just user. Okay, that's the default user. And I think the password is just user2, so I'm just going to type password here. For those of you who want to save it, go ahead and save it, as a profile. You don't have to do it. It just kind of saves you a little bit of time in the future. And click login after you fill in all the blanks here. And it will give you a warning, when it successfully makes the connection, because it doesn't know whether the other side is really the computer that it claims to be. Okay? But since everything is really under our control, the chances of someone launching a man in the middle of attack is none. Okay? So don't worry about it. Just click yes and make the connection. Finish the connection. And once the connection is made, it will give you a screen where the left-hand side represents the file system of Windows 7, which is the host operating system. The right-hand side will show you the files on the other side in the guest operating system. So it's right there. So this side is Windows, this side is Linux. Are there any questions about how to get here? No questions? All right. So what we need to do now is to go to the downloads folder because we have that test.tar.gz file that we have downloaded earlier. So we'll have to go up one level. Dot means your parent folder. And then go to downloads, which is where we downloaded the file in the previous step. I thought I just double clicked. There we go. Not responding. It's just too slow. Oh.
Oh, and you're pressing more buttons.
I might have run out of RAM.
You call reinforcements control.
Well, it's still responding. The rest of it is still working, so I'm not sure what it's. Okay, let's close it and start again. Go away. Okay, let's do it again. Localhost 2200. Username is user. Password is user. Log in. After the first time, it won't ask you that question again because you have just told it, the system it's okay. So we'll do it one more time. Go to downloads. There we go. All right. So I think it just it just needed some extra time. Okay. So the file that we need to transfer is test.tar.gz. That's the file that we want to transfer. Can anyone guess how to transfer the file to the other side? Drag and drop. Okay. So we can do that. So just drag and drop. It will ask you to confirm it. Click yes. Okay. Do it. And because it's a tiny little file, it doesn't take any time to do it. Okay? Are there any questions at this point? So now we have just copied a file from the hosting operating system, the host operating system, to the guest operating system. Okay? That's not your homework assignment. We are about halfway done with the homework assignment. So the other half is you have to run certain commands on the guest operating system. You have to do it in Linux. There are two ways to do it. I'm going to do it the easy way first because there's really no need to do it the complicated way. You don't have to close Winscp. We'll need it later. So we'll just go ahead and minimize it. And go back to the console of the emulator, which is here, and we're going to log in. So we'll log in as user with a password of user. And in Linux, it does not echo back even with asterisk when you type in a password. So when you type in user as the password of user, it doesn't give you any indication of how many keystrokes you have been typing. Okay, it will just give you the blinky cursor. So now that we are in here, you can run the commands, like ls. It will show you the files in the home directory. When you see this tilde symbol, okay, which is the same thing as bitwise not in C and C++, it means you are in the home folder, okay? And let me see if I can zoom in a little bit. I can resize this window. But it doesn't change the text size, so it's not really helpful. Look into view, zoom in. Oh, that helps. That helps. Okay, that's good. Is that better? I'm hoping it's better. Okay, so ls would do this. The next thing you need to do is to tar it. So untar or uncompress the file. The command is tar space xzvf, the v is optional, and then the name of the file, like that. And then you press the enter key. It will basically decompress into a folder called test, and then inside that folder will be a program or program called check.pl. Are there any questions up to this step? In Linux, everything is case sensitive. Okay, so make sure that you observe the uppercase and the lowercase, because if you type in the wrong case, it's not going to work. Next, we need to go into the test folder. The current working directory is the home folder. We want to change the current working directory into test. So we use cd or change directory to go to the test subfolder. And you can see that prompt will tell you which folder you're in. We were in the tilde symbol, which means we were in the home folder. Now we are in tilde/test, which means we're inside the subfolder of the home folder. So in here, we can do another ls, and we can definitely see that we have a program called check.pl. You can run the program by typing /check.pl, and the program will run. It will report what type of processor you have, the current time, the working directory, and stuff like that. It's not important stuff. Okay, it's not really that important. But to turn in your homework assignment, you have to capture that. So what you need to do is to run the same command, but this time use the greater than symbol to redirect the output of the script into check.log. So this way, the output of the program is no longer shown on the screen. Instead, it is captured in the text file. Yep.
What's the time before this?
Just /check.pl. Okay, so are there any questions? We are about 2/3 done with the homework assignment. The next step is to tar up the entire folder. When I say tar up the entire folder, it means creating a tar file based on this folder. That command is a little bit long, and there are lots of places where you can make a mistake. So make sure that you kind of observe this carefully. The command is tar. Okay, so tar can be used to uncompress and also to compress a file. czvf is the command. C stands for create, Z is gzip compression, V is verbose, so it will show you what file is compressing, and F means whatever follows is the name of the file. The file that you want to create is tilde/testdone.tar.gz. The file name is important, okay, because your homework assignment will be partially graded by a script. If you miss the file name, my script cannot pick it up. So make sure that you follow everything to the teeth, to the dot, to the letter, to make sure that my script will not be confused.
Case sensitive?
Case sensitive, yes. Good point. Okay, and then the next part is -C, and this is an uppercase C. And then a single slash, and then after that we have back tick or back quote, That is the key at the upper left corner, right under the escape key on your keyboard. Okay, backtick. PWD, another backtick like that. The instruction is actually in the homework assignment itself. So, if you cannot, follow all of this stuff or copy as quickly, don't worry. It is actually in the notes in the homework description itself. Then you press the enter key, and you will see a little bit of warning. Okay, the first part says, tar : removing leading / from member names. That is normal. Okay, so don't worry about that part. It is perfectly okay.
What kind of tickets is that on PWD?
Say again?
PWD, the quotes?
Backtick.
Just regular
Back quote. It is back quote. It is the key at the upper left corner of your keyboard. Okay, so we are almost done here. We are 75-80% done. The next thing you do is to upload this program to the homework assignment. Okay, and since I logged in as professor, I cannot really turn in the homework assignment. So we'll go ahead and how am I gonna do this? I'm gonna sign in as a student. Let me see if I can do that. Switch role to a student. Usually causes problem because it will say that I have not finished the this activity is hidden because I have not taken the test. I have to do my own syllabus again. As I'm doing this, let me ask you a question. Is it really okay for me to include a installed Linux as a virtual machine and just give it to people like you?
Yes.
I mean, won't I be sued or something? I mean, Microsoft doesn't like that.
You can make it by yourself.
Microsoft has nothing to do with that.
Sorry?
You can just make it by yourself.
But the operating, I did not write Linux. I mean, it's not TechX, right? So
Not as briefable as the
So why is it okay for me to redistribute the virtual machine that is running Linux to the entire class?
Linux
is open source.
Because it's open source.
It is licensed.
Exactly, because of the licensing of Linux. Alright, so now let's see if I can access my own homework assignment. Yep, maybe. Hey, I can do it. Alright, back to the homework assignment. So this time I'm a student. As a student, this is what you will see. Okay? You will see, add submission, but we're not there yet. Okay, so don't click add submission, because right now the file that you need to turn in is where?
Inside the virtual machine.
Inside the Linux virtual machine, right? So we have to get it into Windows first so that your browser has access to it in order to upload it. And do we have any tools to move it from the virtual machine back to Windows? Winscp, which is already running, right? Cool. And you can see that it has not updated itself, because now we should see a new file called testdone.tar.gz. That's okay, not a problem, just make it refresh. And now it's here. Testdone.tar.gz, that's the file that you have to turn in. And drag and drop to the other side. I'm just dragging and dropping it back into downloads. You can pick a different folder to drop it into. Do you want to allow the following program from an unknown publisher to make changes to this computer?
That's code blocks. I don't see why.
That code blocks. Why? Oh, it wants to open it, I think. Okay, just have to drop it.
Oh, I think because you dragged it on top of code blocks.
Yeah.
Over.
Yeah. Let's drop it somewhere else.
Just,
You can drop it to desktop.
Just.
The dropping mechanism is not working. Maybe
Refresh.
this will work. Back to no.
Maybe just refresh. refresh
I
again.
think you don't have an empty space over there. Might work.
Say again?
I think you don't have any space over there, so you're dropping on top of another application.
Yeah, I'll drop it to something else.
Yeah.
But it's not letting me drag it right now.
Download it.
I think you just click the download.
Yeah, I think there's a window somewhere that I cannot see that's... Nope, it's not.
Did you refresh?
Oh, I did. This is
I can just.
Well, try a different one. See if you can do a different one. Well, try the test tar, see if you can drag that one.
I can just download.
Move
Yeah, that's the same thing.
Time over to.
Download will work. Okay, and now it should be on the other side. Voila.
Go.
Right click and download. Alright, getting back to the browser, add submission. And when you click add submission, it will give you this particular interface. Click on it or drag and drop into it. Either way is fine. Browse is inside my downloads folder. So it's right here. It's called testdone.tar.gz. Don't upload the original file. That's not going to get you any points. So make sure you upload the correct file, which is testdone.tar.gz. And we have just specified which file to upload, but it has not been uploaded yet. So make sure you click upload this file, which is the second last step. This is not the last step yet. Okay, looks like we have uploaded it, but wait, you have to save changes. If you don't click save changes at this point, it's not going to be there. Okay, I won't see the file and I cannot grade it. So make sure you click save changes. And this is the confirmation that you know that you have turned in the file. When you see file submission has a link to the file that you have just uploaded, then you're done. Okay? What if you uploaded a file and you think, oh, you know what, I forgot to capture the output of the command. I'm going to redo it. I have to re-upload it. That happens, right? So if you need to resubmit anything, you have to go to Edit Submission. When you get to Edit Submission, you click the file that you have already uploaded, and then you have to delete it first. Because you can only upload one file, up to one file with this homework assignment. If you try to upload again, it's not going to let you. You have to delete the file that you have already uploaded, then it will free up the slot so you can upload another file. So are there any questions about how to turn in the homework assignment? I know it sounds like there's a gazillion steps, but out of the gazillion steps, half of those gazillions have to do with me running the virtual machine inside the virtual machine. Any other questions about the homework assignment? Yep.
Now, if we followed along with this window to do the lecture, will we be able to turn that one, or do you want to do it from our home PC?
You're going to redo the same thing on your home PC. So you will be installing, quote unquote, installing the Linux virtual machine at home, and then perform basically all the same steps in order to get the homework assignment done. And you should see the same thing, when you run the commands, you should see the same thing as we saw in class today. If you see something different, that means you might have mistyped something or missed a certain step, miss a certain previous step. So that's kind of like a complete run through of what you need to do at home.
So if
Yep.
I already turned it in, it's fine?
It's fine. There's no penalty for turning in early. Good job.
How about later?
Extra credit?
If somebody turn in a little bit later, can they got half credit or something?
Nope, because in the syllabus it is clearly stated there's no late submission. So you have a whole week, okay? You got a whole week to do it. And how long did it take me to do it, including starting up a virtual machine inside the virtual machine and finding the virtual machine in the first place? Not that long, right? Are there any questions about any one of the steps in order to get the homework done? Yep.
I have the Linux operating system already.
Okay.
So do I still do a virtual machine in that?
Okay, so the question is whether your Linux machine is running in 64-bit mode or 32-bit mode. If it's running in 64-bit mode, you can make it work with the homework assignments, but you will have to supply extra switches to the assembler and the linker to make it compliant to a 32-bit instruction set. So I think the easiest way is just to run the 32-bit virtual machine because it's all done already, and you'll be in the same environment as everybody else. But if you want to learn how to make 32-bit instructions work in a 64-bit environment, that will work as well.
So you can run a 32-bit in a 64-bit system. So can I run a 32-bit in my 64-bit PC?
I believe so, yes. Yep.
So what if we did it in 64? Is that fine for now?
The assembler will automatically assume that you are specifying 64-bit instructions, so you will have to use a switch to tell the assembler that I'm actually just using 32-bit instructions and not 64-bit instructions. So you're going to have to supply extra switches to the assembler to make it work. Yep.
Hold on a second. Will we ever discuss like the difference between the assembly we're learning here and what GCC produces?
That's the whole point of this class. That is the whole point of this class. I'm not going to get into it too much because we're still talking about, the NAND gate, and the transistors and stuff like that. But a part or the about one half of this class is about debugging programs that you cannot debug in C and C++. Okay, things that can give you. Okay, imagine this. Okay, imagine that you are calling function f from main. Okay, no big deal, right? I mean, in C and C++, we can certainly call subroutines. But when f returns, it returns to G, which is a subroutine that you have never called anywhere in the program. What are you going to do? Or when it returns, it skips a few instructions in main. So instead of returning back to the line right after the call of f, it's skipping a few steps forward or skips a few steps backward. What are you going to do when the program behaves like that?
Fancy stuff tactiles.
Sorry?
Fancy stuff tactiles. We're going to do all the fancy stuff to teachers.
Well, GCC is not going to help, and GDB is not going to help either. And what this class is about is how do we... Okay, first of all, we have to understand how subroutines are called, how the stack is being used. Then we understand, oh, you know what? If I mess up this part of the stack, that is going to happen. Okay? All kinds of weird stuff can happen when you mess up the stack. One thing that can happen is you return to main correctly, but then all the registers will be shifted. All the variables will be shifted. So variable I becomes variable J becomes variable K, and so on. Okay, and those are the things that we cannot explain just understanding C and C++. You can be the expert programmer in C and C++ and not be able to explain those things. And this class gives you the understanding of the instructions that your compiler spits out so that you can kind of explain and go like, oh, you know what? If I mess up the stack this way, this kind of bad thing will happen. So next time, does it prevent you from making mistakes so that your C program will crash? The answer is no. Okay? But does it give you the tools so that you can diagnose your C and C++ programs so that when weird stuff happens, you have an idea of, you know what, I know what is happening here. Okay? The stack is messed up, and the most likely candidate will be accessing an array out of bound. So you know where to look when weird stuff happens. Okay, any other questions? No questions? All right, so if there are no questions, I'm going to stop the recorder in about 10 seconds because I do want to make this part, into the recording itself. Start early. Okay, get started as soon as possible because we do have one class meeting on Thursday. So if you do all of this stuff here and you get stuck in a particular step, on Thursday, you can still ask me and say, okay, I did everything up to here, it is okay, but at this point I got stuck, I don't know what's happening. You can bring it to the lab here and I can help you diagnose the problem. So get started as early as possible. Yes?
We're going to do the logicism.
The logicism? We kind of did it in class today, so you just have to drag the right symbol and make the right connections. Yep. One more thing.
So how are you gonna turn that away?
You just turn in the file itself, the logic sim file,
Oh.
save that file, and then turn in that one single file. There's no need to zip anything in that case.
But we made like a couple of them.
If you make a few, you have to zip it up.
Oh,
Okay, one more thing. Okay, I have not talked about how to shut down the virtual machine. So if you want to shut down the virtual machine, you have to log in as the root user. There are several ways to do it. If you're already logged in as a user, you can use the command called su or super user or switch user to change to the root access. If you have already logged out as the default user, you can log in as root. Okay, root is administrator in Linux. And the password of root here, and this is no secret, okay? There's no need to worry about people hacking into your virtual machine. The root password is beer. B-E-E-R, root beer. And once you're in root, as root, you can type the command called power off. Press the enter key and it will start the sequence to shut down the machine correctly.
And you have to be a root to do that? Can you do
You
it
have to be
yourself?
root to do this. Yep.
Now it's just SU enter and it brings us to the login screen.
If you use SU, it will ask you for the password of the root user. So same thing, you type beer, and then you get into, then you'll become the root user, and then you can just type power off, and it will power down everything. And at this point, Winscp is going to give you an error because the machine that it is supposed to be connecting to is already shut down. So it will just say that, oh, okay, I'm done here. And it will try to reconnect. You just click, okay, and close it. Otherwise, it will reattempt to connect to eternity.
Is that going to log out everybody?
Hmm?
Is that turn down everybody? When you do that power off,
Mm-hmm.
is that going to the power off that machine?
It will
Everybody-
only power off the virtual machine running Linux.
Yeah, but everybody will got kicked off.
Nope, because it's local to your computer. I'm giving you your own Linux machine as a virtual machine.
2 gigabyte. That's small.
Just takes up 2 gigs of space. Give it about 2.5 to be sure. Any other questions? No questions? All right. So I'm glad that you guys can stay here because I think this is kind of important. Following the steps. So we are all done. If you have any questions, I'm gonna stop the recorder. If you have any questions, I can certainly try to answer those questions now. But the recorder.